Were you assigned duties in your official capacity as a law enforcement officer with the Manchester Police Department regarding the investigation into the disappearance of Harmony Montgomery? I know that was a mouthful, but
Yes.
okay. And just briefly, if you could describe for this jury what your role and participation in the case was, just a bird's eye view.
Okay. So I originally started working on the case early January of 2022, where we would help with searches, follow-ups, things of that nature, but I didn't actually get assigned the case with Detective Dunleavy until February of 2022.
You mentioned a Detective Dunleavy. Is that Jack Dunleavy?
Yes,
And what is your understanding of his role in this case?
the lead investigator.
And so what was that interaction like between yourself and Jack Dunleavy?
We had a good rapport, just going back and forth on different things that needed to get done.
I guess my question, did you split duties?
Oh, yes, yeah, correct. Sorry.
And I think you said this, but your involvement in this matter began in January of 2020?
Correct.
2022.
Yes.
I want to discuss specific processing of an item, sealing.
Yes.
Can you describe your role and involvement in the processing of a sealing for the jurors?
Yes. So we arrived to process the scene June 4th of 2022.
Let me stop
Oh,
you there.
sorry.
When you say you arrived to process
Oh,
it,
sorry, 177 Lake Ave, which is the Families in Transition building, also known as FIT. So we arrived there that morning to get consent from the CEO and the president of FIT, along with the occupants of room 1 in the FIT building.
and when you say we arrived, were you with other detectives?
Yes, I originally arrived there with Detective Dunleavy.
And when you arrived, what did you do?
We vacated the residence and to get it prepped for processing it.
Did you process the sealing specifically?
Yes.
And how did you go about doing that?
So when we walked in, there was 3 areas of interest, and the ceiling that we're talking about, MER 3D, that was further back in the residence of room 1. And so the processing of that, it was a huge piece of evidence, so we needed kind of all hands on deck when we actually took the ceiling down.
You just mentioned the evidence number, MER 3D. What's
Yes.
the significance of the MER?
So those are my initials.
And so did you log that evidence in under your own name?
I did.
And why did you do that?
I was tasked with documentation and collection that day when we arrived to FIT.
You mentioned collecting MER 3D. Did you also collect a vent cover?
I did.
And what was that logged under?
I believe the vent cover was MER 3A.
At some point during your time, is it fair to say that during your time at the FIT shelter, you did more than just document the ceiling?
Correct.
What else did you do that day?
So after we processed the ceiling and packaged it up and got it out of the residence, we ended up cleaning it to make sure that there was no dust on the ground. And we went and processed the scene with, or sorry, not the scene, processed the room and the bathroom with Blue Star.
And walk us through that process. What was your specific role in the processing of that room and bathroom?
So my specific role was documentation of what we were doing, and I was with Detective Bombard and Detective Bergeron Rosa.
Just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to switch gears with you, Detective Rahill. During your involvement on this case, did you have an opportunity to review Meta bank account records?
I did.
And specifically an account ending in 5270.
Yes.
And what is your familiarity with that account?
That is the bank account for Kayla Montgomery.
And to your knowledge, is that one that was a shared account?
Yes.
Objection. Source.
Counsel? The objection is sustained. Let me ask a follow-up question.
So Detective Rayhill, you mentioned your familiarity with the records.
Yes.
How did you go about collecting? Did you collect those records?
I didn't physically collect them.
Did another officer
Yes.
involved with this matter collect those records?
Yes.
How did they go about collecting them?
Search warrant.
And you had a chance to review those records?
Yes.
Do those records document that? Well, let me back up. You mentioned that this was a shared account.
Yes.
What's the source of that information for you?
On the record.
Your review of the records?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach this one?
Yes?
Showing that offense which has been previously marked for identification as State's Exhibit 138. So Detective Rayhill, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 138. I'm just going to ask that you take a moment and review those records.
Mhm.
And once you've had an opportunity to review those records. Thank you. So the records that I just handed you, State's Exhibit 138, are you familiar with this?
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
It was the bank records for that card number ending in 5270.
Familiar with these records? fair to
Yes.
say? Okay. Your Honor, I move to strike the ID of State's Exhibit 138 and mark as full.
An objection?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes. is that 138?
138.
138. The ID is not stricken on 138. You can proceed.
So, Detective Rahill, I'm handing you back what's been marked as State's Exhibit 138 for identification. Fair to say that's a pretty lengthy document.
Yes.
Okay. I'm showing you now what's been marked for identification of State's Exhibit 61. So, if you can take a moment and review State's Exhibit 61. Just look up when you're ready. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What can you tell the jurors what it is?
So this is a withdrawal from Citizens Bank at 688 South Willow Street. The transaction was.
And let me stop you
Oh,
there.
sorry.
You're familiar with it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm familiar.
Is this taken from that larger record, State's
Yes.
Exhibit 138?
Yes.
Okay. And there's something highlighted on it.
Yes.
And I think you were talking about that just now.
Yes.
Is this item, State's Exhibit 61, is that a fair and accurate representation of a portion of the records that you have in front of you, State's Exhibit 138?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, the state moves to strike the ID of State's Exhibit 61 and mark it as full.
Any objection?
Other than, overall.
Okay, other than the previous objection that was noted, the court will strike the ID and enter this as a full exhibit.
I'm going to take those exhibits back from you, Detective Rahill.
I'm sorry.
With regard to State's Exhibit 61, I'm going to put it up on the screen behind you. Is that the same document that we were looking at?